Hi folks, it's Kim MacLeod from Indie Authors World here, and we are back doing another little blether about books for Book Week Scotland, and I'm delighted that today we have the very lovely Andrew Marsh coming to have a chat with me. So hi Andrew, how are you doing today?
Hi Kim, doing very well, thank you. Thanks very much for having me on. This is it's great to see you.
Good to see you too. So just before we kind of get started in our blether, tell everybody who's watching a little bit about you, and particularly what's your main book that we're going to be kind of talking about today.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm 55. I used to work in construction. I was a geologist. I'm English, in case you can't tell. I'm from Sussex, but I moved to Scotland after I got my master's, and I came here in 1986, and I've stayed. So yeah, I was in construction for 23 years. Then the credit crunch came, and that sort of tipped everything upside down. And I started getting more into my writing, and I did some retraining in NLP and hypnosis. But I've really kind of got really stuck into my writing, which is what brings us to the main event, really, is
Yep.
Jack Jansen and the Stormcaller, which I've got here,
Yep.
which you have helped me publish, which is fantastic. Where do I start with Jack Jansen? I wanted to write something for teenagers.
Yep.
And because I'd written stuff before that more adult orientated, and I just felt, that there was a market there for writing for teenagers, and I sort of set my mind to thinking, well, what could I write about? So the only way I could best describe it is you just put it out there that you want to write a story for kids, and you wait and see what comes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get the flash of light bulb moment and you've got an idea and you quickly find something to write it down on. But other times, if you're starting out something completely fresh, it's just a case of, okay, come and talk to me, see what's coming out there, see what lands.
Yeah.
And it came very quickly, actually. The idea behind it was to have a nice young lad, but he's in a horrible situation. And I could kind of relate to that. I just digress slightly. I was diagnosed with Aspergers when I was 51, and that kind of filled the missing link for knowing I've always been different as a child and growing up, but don't know why. Yeah. And so all sorts of things that had happened to me during my childhood, school, college, work, all made sense. All the ducks lined up. And so I thought, without having someone who's on the spectrum, but have someone who's in a difficult situation at home, and then let's take him from there and let's put him on an adventure. Yeah. And that's really how the story came about. And I was very fortunate in that when I really got into it, one book became two book became three ideas, and they're all stacking up, and they're all in various states of readiness. Book 2 will be done next year with yourselves. I'm looking for springtime for that. So yeah, it's really exciting, and you've got my teeth into it, and the deeper I seem to go into it, the more creative the ideas become. Yeah. And I suppose that's just linking into the story, really.
It's the life of a writer, isn't it? So I just wanted to ask then, so there's a few things I'm going to come back and pick up, particularly on the Aspergers and how that.
Yeah.
Come back to that, but so from geologist, working in various different kind of roles and stuff. Had you always written stuff, or and this had it been a hobby, or was it just something that really then came when you really kind of decided?
No, the only writing I did was through studying, essays and things like that at college, university, and then report writing at work. There was a lot of report writing, but that's a completely different animal to writing fiction. Yeah. I suppose the ideas really started when I was working on construction sites. And you'd be sitting around having a cup of tea with some of the lads and some of the workers, and they'd tell you some riotous stories, absolutely riotous, that I couldn't possibly repeat here. But
not for the young adult market, then.
No, not for the young adult market, absolutely. But and I thought, well, that's funny, that's interesting, and I did what most writers will tell you they did. I went and got some notebooks, and I used to walk around, have them in my pocket, and I'd quickly sneak away and write some of these ideas down. And one idea became 5, and when I actually sat and wrote them down and typed them up, it's when I type them up is when it flows. Even if it's just a simple idea. I mean, something happened to me yesterday that is going to go in a book somewhere, because it was just so bizarre, absolutely bizarre. But it won't just be that little thing. It will get embellished, and it will develop, and it will grow. So it'll become a subplot within a book somewhere. And it's when I sit down and typing things up. One sentence becomes a paragraph becomes a page becomes 6 pages, and all of a sudden you've got the bones of an idea. Absolutely.
So you've actually said there, which is some of the questions I've been asking some of our other guests around, you know, where life crosses over into your work.
Yeah.
And you've given, you know, a few examples already of how, you know, those experiences of you just kind of watching things, observing, listening to other stories, and things that have happened to you, then do start to make their way then into your stories. You know,
they do.
Do you think other people would recognise, you know, what's there, or is it just that you've got the bones of something that you then embellish?
Mostly it's the bones of something that you embellish, but with the first book I wrote, The Long and Winding Road, back in 2003, there is a lot more of me in there. My brother read it and he said, "That's got you all over it." And I thought, really? You know, it was my first book, and you tend to blurt out a lot more in your first book, and the main character was very me-like, without being me, and there were people in situations that happened to me, or had happened to close friends, relatives, that went into the book without naming names and being completely specific. You change certain details so that you're making a story out of an event, so that it's not completely, you know, factual. You are making fiction, but the essence of what happens was there more so in the first book. Yeah.
And I think that's it. But I think most of the writers that I speak to, you're going to pull your own experiences. You know, whether it's about character development, and you know, you've got a wee bit of somebody in something, or somebody will speak, or a situation that you've lived. You know, it's. I think that's the thing for you know, every writer is going to pull from their own background and experiences, and some elements of themselves are obviously going to make, you know, make their stories.
The couple of people who've read Jack Jansen and the Stormcaller, they said, if I didn't know who'd written that, I would still know it was you. I can hear your voice in the writing. So
and that's a good thing, actually.
It is.
Particularly if people then like your style. So if they can actually, you know, they can hear your voice in there, they like your style, and they like the book, then they're going to look for the next book and the next book. Because they connect with that. So it's good that you've got a strong voice in it. You know, that's like a good place to be. So,
it is. Thank you. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask then, seeing as Book Week Scotland this year is all about blethering. One of my absolute favourite things to do in the world ever, as anybody who knows me absolutely says, was a comment that this was the best topic for me ever, was to have a blether.
Yeah.
I mean, have you got you know, a sort of go-to people that you enjoy a good blether with?
In terms of writing, there's a group of people that I haven't been to for a while. Circumstances just haven't made that possible. But there's a writers' school that I go to, the writers' summer school at Swanwick, and that was kind of a big changing point in not just my writing but in my life. And everyone you meet there, so friendly, so warm, encouraging. They actually want to sit down with you and talk to you about writing. Isn't that fantastic? And it doesn't matter whether you're talking about your writing, they're talking about their writing. You're in your own little writing bubble for a week. And what happens in the outside world just really doesn't matter. There's only one television, and that's in the bar, and no one ever watches it apart from when the cricket's on. Because there's no need to have anything outside. You just immersed yourself in being a writer, talking to others. You talk to people about poetry that you just wouldn't normally get the opportunity to, and all sorts of things. There's people with all sorts of writing backgrounds, and they just want to hear you and talk, and there's no competition.
Yeah.
No one's saying, "Oh, he's writing the same genre as me. I'm not going to go and speak to him because he's going to steal my readers." Absolutely not. There's so much space for everyone that
I think that's one of the things. It's one of the things, Andrew, that I would say to any writer who's out there is that, from my perspective, writers don't compete with each other, because it's not that anybody is only ever going to read one author's books and that's it. Because you know what it's like. If you like a particular genre, then the minute you've finished, and if that person's got a series of books and you like them, you've read through those series, and then when you get to the end, it's like, what am I going to read now? So you're then looking to somebody else, that another book, another author, and that's where I think that particularly in the kind of indie author space, we can really support other writers in that way by encouraging them and saying, yep, if you've loved this, you're going to love this sort of book. Try this one. Because it's helping other people be found, isn't it?
It is. So we're all in the same boat. There's no point trying to row in different directions.
Exactly. So I wonder though, when you've said about your Asperger's diagnosis, and recognising maybe that's why you felt different from other people. So has that, in terms of the connection with people, because I know that often with kind of Asperger's, it might be that you maybe don't pick up the triggers in the same way. Of kind of people reading people's emotions and know what's actually going on, and that you're almost kind of slightly in a different language. Of understanding. So has that diagnosis then kind of freed you up a wee bit more to connect with people in a different way? Has it helped?
In a way, yes. It's maybe less. Well, in a way, it's maybe less fearful of people, because I know that there's this. I'm wired different. My brain's wired differently, and I react to situations in a different way to others. So, in one way, if I'm going to a group of people that I know and they know I have Asperger's, then we understand. There'll come a point where it's really interesting, but I need to back out now, and I need to go. I get overwhelmed with noise. Walking into a crowded room of people I don't know is probably more terrifying than going to appear on X Factor for me, because they want you to do well, but a room full of strangers that I don't know and it's all noisy, I get sensory overload, and I do find it difficult in those situations to sort of, hello, I'm Andrew, how are you, to sort of meet and greet people. I kind of think, not quite sure what's going on, and I'm 55, and I still have that situation where meeting new people in certain circumstances is a challenge. But I'm usually with my wife, and she's very supportive, and we kind of muddle through. And you get to recognize triggers, and she gets to recognize triggers where you think, he's not getting very comfortable about this. Maybe we should move on, or we should go, or something like that. And people that we know, friends and family, they'll understand. They would think, oh, he's being rude. We're right in the middle of a lovely conversation, and it's, everything's going really well, and he's going. They understand that, really sorry, but I have to respectfully bail out now and get back to the peace and quiet of somewhere familiar. So it does play a thing, but then, on the other side of things, I think it's given me my creativity. I absolutely do. It's my superpower, and I do believe that it is my superpower. I can't be invisible and I can't fly, but I've got a creative flair that is there, and I think that has definitely helped my writing. Because when people read my stuff and we talk about ideas I have for books, they go, how do you think of these things? And I'm like, well, I just do. I see something in the street or what's going on around me, and I'm just constantly observing, aware, very visual of what's going on. And it's when I write, it's kind of like I'm watching the film in my head, and I'm sitting there describing what's going on.
Yeah.
So, you know, I know in 10 years' time when Peter Jackson has a go at these, then that'll be very good, you know.
Yep, so like people who are watching now, come and talk to us about film rights. I'm sure we can negotiate a good deal.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's always there, and I just go with the flow with it. And if something comes up, I say this thing that happened last night was just so bizarre that it's going to go in a book somewhere.
So we'll look forward to kind of finding out this later on, whenever that book appears.
The thing is finding the right place to put it. You can't just dump some of these things in. You've got to. It has to be congruent with the rest of the book and the characters. You can't suddenly have someone who has a certain trait suddenly become completely different. The book and the story has to be consistent within itself, within limits. I mean, people do extraordinary things under certain circumstances.
In extreme circumstances, a person can react in a different way. But unless you've got an extreme stressful situation with your character, they're not suddenly going to flip and be a completely different sort of person.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I would just like to say that I think that what you described about struggling and going into a room with a lot of people. There'll probably be many people who would be watching this who would recognise that for themselves too, and may never have considered themselves or have any issues at all, or be on the autistic spectrum, have any issues with Aspergers or anything. But I think it's one of those things that all of us, some of those traits at certain times, and certain challenges. And I think for me, this whole notion, because we're talking about blethering, this whole notion of blethering is about trying to just make a connection, and sometimes that's just with one person, and it can be I can be a very short, conversation sometimes. But the conversations that we have open us up to, like you say, experiencing another person's view of the world, and an opportunity to learn a wee bit about them, and from a writer's then giving you fuel, like you say, to add to the future, isn't it? So.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I need to blow my nose here. I do apologise. There we go.
So the kind of last question that I wanted to come up with was, so have you ever had a conversation that has changed your life in some way?
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah. At my first Swanwick, my first writers' school when I went in 2003, I was around all these writers. There were just so many people and it was one of those strange things that obviously I didn't know I had Aspergers at the time, but it was like walking into a long lost family, and everyone was there going, "Hi, how you doing? What are you writing?" And it was just completely different from anything I'd experienced before. And you're there for a week, and you meet. I mean, some of the people are just very good friends of mine now that we met on my first Swanwick and since. But there were people there that you'd find yourself sitting chatting to 2 o'clock in the morning about stuff. And it would be writing stuff, it would be personal stuff that you would never normally speak to other people about. But there was just something about the people there that was just made you feel so much at home, so wanted, and so connected with them that it really did, have a big influence on me. Yeah.
Well, it's that connection, isn't it, that we probably all seek. And the connection with our own tribe almost. That's
absolutely.
Writers, when you've then found those people who understand what it's like to be creative, understand what it's like to live in a world in your head all the time, creating different things, and trying to kind of get that out into some sort of forum. And it's great that was the place. That was the place for you that just kind of, I suppose, brought you home, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely.
Encouraged you to go forward, which is fantastic. Well done.
Thank you.
I'm absolutely delighted that we've had you on today. Like we said, there is the book, folks. It is Jack Jansen and the Stormcaller by Andrew Marsh. If people want to connect with you, Andrew, where is the best place? Have you got a website or have you got social media? What's the best place?
Yeah, I've got a brand new website which I'm very pleased with. It's www.andrewmarsh.co. Just .co. There's a website there, and it's got about my writing, and I'm starting to become a professional speaker about Aspergers, so there's things about that as well. If they want to email me, they can email me at the same through the website. That's info@andrewmarsh.co, and I'll be delighted to make contact with people, talk to them about my writing. If people want to get in touch, that'd be absolutely fantastic. I'm on Facebook and Twitter. Twitter is at Andrew F. Marsh, and I've got a Facebook profile. So and LinkedIn as well. I'm on LinkedIn.
All the usual places, isn't
all
it?
the usual places, you'll find it. Yeah.
Well, we will put a link to your website address. Beneath the video.
Oh.
You're going to be watching it. You'll have a look in the comments somewhere. I'm sure that you'll find a link then to.
That's very kind of you. Thank you.
And yeah, by all means, please go and check out Andrew's book. Have a look at his website and see all his one. If you want to kind of connect with him, please do. Thank you so much for coming and having a blether with me today.
Thank you. It's been great. It's always great to talk to you, Kim. It's just so infectious. It's fantastic.
I just love it when I get a chance to talk to writers. You've got such amazing imaginations, and it's our privilege and joy to be part of your journey and helping you get those books out of the world.
Well, I think an awful lot of credit goes to you and Sinclair for having the temerity to actually do it. You may have started it for yourself, but you've said we've actually got something here that can work and can get people who might never otherwise get a book out. So congratulations to you, because you've made a difference to a lot of people.
Thank you. So, well, thanks very much, Andrew, and we'll say goodbye to folks that are watching now, and we hope to catch up with you again soon.
Yep, see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.